Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I hope you're all doing well. Got some dry weather here, so we've been out kind of playing around while we can before it starts to rain or snow or whatever the Northwest is choosing to do this year. I guess some of my friends out there in North Carolina and on the East Coast got snow, so go do Brodies and parking lots, whatever y'all do. Everybody in the South continue to have some good weather. Go have fun as well. So what we're going to talk about today is a little bit different than something I've done in the past. Kind of talk about things going on in the shop, which, while this is my personal channel, obviously, because of where I work, most of the data, most of the cars that you see information from has come out of the shop. So we have, as a group, decided to make a migration from the current standalone that I had been using, and I will say preferred, the AEM Infinity, as the one that we installed new, ready to go. We're going to start putting a lot more Haltech, I can say it correctly, Haltech ECUs in customer cars moving forward. A lot of the reason is the software is constantly updated. Customer support is phenomenal. You either get to talk to somebody in Kentucky, or depending on the time of night, you might get transferred and talk to somebody in Australia. And they are very good about email. Really phenomenal customer support. I'm not taking jabs at AEM. They just aren't on that level. And for anybody that's in high production and doesn't have a lot of time to figure out problems that may be in ECU, or honestly, most likely is wiring, you need quick response. You need somebody that's familiar with the hardware and say, hey, this isn't the hardware, it checks out, nothing happened here. It's not the jumper harness. It's not the wiring harness. It's really something that is customer supplied, or maybe y'all did wrong in the shop. So that is a definite plus one to Haltech. Price point is about the same, so that's good. Expandability is kind of based on what you really truly need. So while we are used to having lots of I/O to start with in an Infinity, depending on the model, the Haltech does have less pins, but you can buy CAN expansion boxes. And I think you can stack two of them. They have 12-channel input-output, so you get a bunch of analog voltage, you get digital pulse, you get output stuff, and you can stack them. They have CAN widebands, so they don't have an onboard wideband controller. They do accept aftermarket gauge inputs, which the Infinity does, but honestly, anything that is CAN based is going to be faster. CAN GPS, CAN EGT. So what I feel is really common in a lot of good ECUs: fast closed loop, in boost, everything works great. Knock control is better. Definitely going to spend a lot more time on upcoming videos showing how the Haltech knock control works, to help anybody that watches that does have a Haltech. It's going to be mostly 1500 and 2500 Elite to start with. We haven't had any Nexus R5s, but as an example, here's the legacy ESP software, which at this point you do have an option to upgrade to the NSP that Haltech offered as part of their 35th anniversary, no charge. So you can change firmware. And while you have all your table control over here, if you want to go to a main screen, you press F4. It takes you to functions, and then you go and add things, possibly. Just scrolling down, because we're going to switch to the NSP right after this. You have a bunch of generic outputs, and realistically, you could probably make tables however you need to make tables if you took the time to do it. Got a bunch of nitrous stuff right there, O2 control. We're going to get down to the T's. One thing you're going to see, though, is it does not have any real trans control. It has torque converter control. Go up just a little bit here. And it has sensors you can hook up to it. Oh, it does have transmission control. Well, you know. So I guess that's what I get for looking around. So you do have transmission control. There is cruise control. And all of that went forward into NSP. This is what I get for thinking, though. I thought that was just NSP. Pleasant surprise. But lots and lots of features. You don't want them, you just unclick them. It's real simple. You get to assign inputs. Very, very few things are dedicated. Here's the cruise control, for instance. Very few things are dedicated input output. And if you need to go wire it, you just go edit connection. It tells you what you have left. We'll just randomly pick one because I'm not going to save it anyway. And it will tell you, oh, hey, you also need to have neutral switch enabled. So there's other things that we have to do here. And it will not let you do it. It'll give you the red warning. Just really nice, common sense features. So now we're going to switch to the NSP software. And I'm going to kind of show you some more of the stuff that's already been in the ESP, but I'll show you from the newer NSP software side. So let's switch to that right now. So the first thing you would notice is that right now it looks pretty similar. Everything is over here as far as what you would do to add or subtract features that you want, maybe don't want. It's really a lot easier. There is no F4. You just come in, you find it, you click it. It'll give you warnings over here, tell you that, hey, you need to figure this out. What do you want to do? So let's turn one on. Turbo speed is there, and it says error. Turbo speed sensor 1 enable. Function has unassigned or invalid connection. So we would have to go find it, which it adds it right here. So we need to go get it an input to use. Again, that is how it was. So we'll just pick a random one because I'm not going to save this. Again, this is just for demonstration. And boom. We have what edge it is, what sensor type it is, if we need to pull up or not, and everything's there. It'll tell you what wire color it is so that when you're looking at the harness, you can find it easy. Just a lot of really cool features that make it a lot easier to use. Now, I talked about some of the stuff that you can do in ESP that you can do in NSP also, and we're just going to look at one. Torque converter lock point. Now, natively, this is just one value, and it's mile an hour, on, off, lock, unlock. You get to pick. What you can do is if you hit F3, you can enable different axes to turn things on and off if you want. So you don't need it complicated. That's fine. You just come in, you turn it off, and it has 200 miles an hour in there for locking the converter up, because that was the value in that corner where it was selected. But you could put in anything you want. So you want to turn it back on, you turn it back on. But nothing's populated, so we would have to go back and do that. Unlock is the same. See, it's just one value here. So maybe the lock, we're going to have it lock at 35 miles an hour. Bam, done. But if you want to make it more user-friendly, some people might use the term complicated, you just come in, you start putting in values. We're going to do some random ones here. Since this is just a demonstration, I had chosen the APP rather than the actual TPS because I might be doing stuff in the background with that, but I want to do stuff relative to the throttle pedal in this case. So we're going to do neutral. Doesn't let me do neutral. And there, we can do it versus throttle position, gear position. You can make tables however you want them. Some really neat stuff in the Haltech that is a lot harder to do in AM stuff. Really probably going to have to get something more like a Motec to have that functionality. So The Nexus R5, which is the brand new ECU that Haltech has a PDM built in, a power distribution module. It has more I/O on board, so that's why it's more advanced. But they gave this to users that still had an Elite that didn't need to upgrade but wanted to switch to new software. And just because you might want to see what the NSP software looks like, I believe it's the modern. This is what it would look like by default. A little easier on the eyes if you're working in the dark or low light situation. Maybe you're checking something on the street or your dyno room isn't very well lit. You'd want something like that. I like the classic just because that works for me. Apparently I like the eye strain. But you can come into engine functions. And that's the other thing. You can open the tabs and see what's open. But if you want to add, you always just click on the label. You come in and you can do all sorts of neat stuff. You can just figure out all sorts of things that you want to do. Sequential twin turbo RX-7 boost control. Personally, I have no idea how that works, but if you have that and you need it to work like stock, guess what? They got you. It's right here. You just got to go and do all this stuff. Make sure you have the input outputs for it. And you're good. And if you don't, oh, well, I guess you turn it back off. You wait till you get them. And then if we, as is classic, I hit the wrong buttons. We go to the Haltech CAN systems. So maybe we have these wideband boxes. You can set DCT functions. So for this example, I have both I/O expanders selected so that we can have lots of ability to gain data. And what I discovered is that as I was setting up the transmission control stuff, some of the wiring, you basically need an entire I/O box to make it work right. So we have outputs to run 2 solenoids. This is for 4-speed auto, but I want to do line pressure monitoring and I want to do line pressure temp. So I have to have that. It doesn't show up the line pressure, or not line pressure, but the transmission oil temp shows up under sensors, but that's something that it can work versus, but you have to have the sensor and you have to have it wired in. So the output control for line pressure solenoid, obviously we talked about the torque converter, so that's for that solenoid. But lots of interesting. And then here we have RPM shift points versus throttle. This is just a random sample of how I set it up. I don't know what I don't know, so maybe I'm going to want to change this when it goes into my Nissan. I have lots of crazy ideas that we've come up with in the last month and a half that is probably going to happen to that car. Hopefully all at once, but we'll have to see. It might go in stages. So anyway, just so that you guys can kind of see what you're going to be watching on the channel, it's going to be a lot more Haltech. Now, we've already gone through and we've looked at data logging before a little bit. I'm just going to open a random project. We're going to open the Compound Turbo R33. Should be fresh in everybody's mind. So you get to look at it. It's kind of cool. You can do this in the Infinity, but not natively. You have to set it up. Highs, lows, where the cursor's at right now. Makes it a lot easier. Kind of quick glance, you can see that, oh man, how did I end up with 38 pounds of back pressure? You know that that's a problem. So maybe you want to go right to that point and look at it. Or how did I end up with 26 pounds of boost pressure? I didn't want that on pump gas, possibly. How did that happen? So you come back and you look and you find it in the map. And then in this particular one, I have the boost control percentages here, RPM throttle. So, and you can set it up. You just double click, makes a trace. You can make different pages. You can rename the pages. Makes it a lot of fun. Anyway, guys, that's all I got for you today. As I croak, that's all I have for you today. If it's content you like and you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. Hit the thumbs up if it is something that you found interesting. If you know somebody that might be interested in watching this or other tech videos that we have, The pop and bang videos have been pretty popular lately. Consider sharing it with your friends. And if you want notified as new content is added, just hit the bell icon. Helps the channel out, helps me know that I need to be better about making videos, or maybe it doesn't matter. Gives me a good idea of how interested you guys are in what we do and some of the tech and the end result, because I realize both are important. So you're going to be seeing a lot more of cars on dynos, dyno sheets, that type of stuff. Anyway, hope you're all doing well. Take care, guys. Talk to you soon.